Hello everyone. In this video we are going to study the hormonal regulation of urine formation. Now there are two feedback mechanisms by which the function of kidneys takes place with the help of hormones. The first is control by ADH, which is anti-diuretic hormone, and second is control by JGA, which is juxtaglomerular apparatus. So these two help in regulation of urine formation. We'll see them individually. First we are going to see the control by ADH. The ADH is also known as vasopressin, and this is secreted by the posterior lobe of pituitary. So if you remember, there were three lobes of pituitary: the anterior lobe, the intermediate lobe, and the posterior lobe. So there were two hormones that were secreted by the posterior lobe. The first hormone is ADH or vasopressin, the anti-diuretic hormone, which is also known as vasopressin. Now, if there is large amount of urine in the water, the condition is called as diuresis. If immense amount of water is excreted out in the urine, it is known as diuresis. Diuresis is controlled by the secretion of ADH. So ADH actually maintains the amount of water to be excreted. Now, regulation of water by ADH is an example of homeostatic feedback mechanism. So the kidney maintains the homeostasis. It automatically maintains the internal environment by controlling the amount of water that has to be excreted. Let us see how the feedback mechanism operates. If there is low intake of water, if the person has drunk very little amount of water, the water content in the blood is also low. And thus this is received by the osmoreceptors of hypothalamus. We know that hypothalamus is a part of the brain, and from the hypothalamus the stalk called as infundibulum is attached, and to the infundibulum the pituitary gland is attached. So hypothalamus and pituitary are attached by the infundibulum. So when the osmoreceptors of hypothalamus receive this message that water content in the blood is low, it stimulates the pituitary. The posterior lobe of pituitary secretes the hormone ADH, which is also known as vasopressin. What does ADH do? ADH helps in absorption of water from the tubules of nephron, particularly the DCT, the collecting tubule, and also the loop of Henle. So what does ADH do? it helps in increasing the permeability of the tubules for water. So much of the water which is formed as filtrate in the kidney, in the nephron, is reabsorbed. So if ADH is enough in amount, much of the water is reabsorbed. So what will be the consequence? When enough water is reabsorbed, the urine will be hypertonic, because water has been absorbed, much of the water has been absorbed. So if there is low intake of water, the urine that will be formed will be hypertonic, and this is because of the presence of ADH. The body has already less amount of water, and we do not want to waste enough amount of water, and therefore hypertonic urine is excreted. This is a sign that the person has to drink water immediately. Now let us see the other aspect. When there is increased water uptake, when the person has drunk enough amount of water, so there is high water content in blood, and there is a detection by the osmoreceptors of hypothalamus. This will give the message to the pituitary, the posterior lobe of pituitary, and then the pituitary will release less ADH. So when less ADH is secreted, what will happen? It will not reabsorb enough amount of water. So the filtrate will be hypotonic. Let enough amount of water be excreted in the form of urine, because there is enough water in the body. The person has drunk enough water, and therefore there is no need to conserve water or reabsorb enough amount of water. So when there is less ADH secretion, there is the decrease in the permeability of tubules. So the tubules do not reabsorb enough amount of water, and therefore the urine will be hypotonic. So when there is enough water uptake, the urine will be hypotonic. So the concentration, the osmotic concentration of the urine is decided by the secretion of ADH. So this is how this hormone ADH helps in regulation of urine formation. Let us see the second type of control, the control by juxtaglomerular apparatus. This is JGA apparatus. Now what happens in this is, there is a system of 4 hormones, that is of 3 hormones. This is a system of 3 hormones: renin, angiotensin, aldosterone. These are the 3 hormones, and then this is a system. So often it is asked, what is RAAS? RAAS. This is renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, which is controlling the urine formation in association with the juxtaglomerular apparatus, that is the JGA. So RAAS, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. Now this juxtaglomerular apparatus is situated very close to the Bowman's capsule. What happens when the body loses sodium ions by losing water by osmosis? There is a decrease in the blood volume. There is a decrease in the blood volume, and the blood pressure falls. Because the blood volume is less, the blood pressure is decreasing, and the blood Na, that is the blood sodium level, also decreases. because the water is lost and the sodium ions are also lost from the tubules. So there is a decrease in blood volume, due to which there is a fall in blood pressure. We can say that the blood pressure has become low, and for this reason the afferent arteriole has low blood inflow. So if you remember that the Bowman's capsule, this was the Bowman's capsule in which the afferent arteriole comes in, and we have studied that it has a fixed pressure by which the blood enters. So if the blood pressure has fallen down, the low blood inflow is taking place from the afferent arteriole. So this is the Bowman's capsule. Near the Bowman's capsule is the juxtaglomerular apparatus is present. As soon as this is detected by the JGA, a release of hormone takes place. This hormone is renin. So the hormone is released only when the JGA detects that the blood which is coming through the afferent arteriole into the Bowman's capsule has low blood pressure. So until unless the glomerular apparatus which is next to the Bowman's capsule does not detect the low blood pressure, the renin will not be released. So this is the first hormone of the RAA system which is released. Now, what does this renin do? There is a plasma protein that is present in the blood, angiotensinogen. This angiotensinogen is converted into angiotensin by the hormone renin. So this renin was secreted by the JGA. The enzyme renin is secreted, and this particular plasma protein angiotensinogen is converted into angiotensin. And as soon as angiotensin is formed, the blood pressure is increased because it causes the arterioles to constrict. So when the arterioles constrict, what happens is that the blood pressure increases. When the arterioles dilate, the blood pressure becomes low, but when it tightens up and it becomes constricted, the blood pressure increases. This it does by two means. The angiotensin does increase the blood pressure by two means. The first means is that it signals the PCT, the proximal convoluted tubule, to reabsorb more NaCl and water. Since the blood pressure had fallen down due to loss of water and NaCl, the angiotensin causes the arterioles to constrict, and it signals the proximal convoluted tubule to reabsorb more NaCl and water, and therefore the blood pressure increases. The second method by which it increases the blood pressure is that it stimulates the adrenal gland. And what it does, when the adrenal gland is stimulated, it releases the hormone aldosterone, and aldosterone hormone promotes in the absorption of sodium ions, and in this manner the blood pressure increases. So there is a combination of all the proteins and hormones together to bring this effect. So when the renin is secreted, angiotensinogen, which is an inactive form, gets converted into angiotensin 2. This particular protein is angiotensin 2, and then this angiotensin 2 helps in increasing the blood pressure by two ways: by signaling the proximal convoluted tubule to reabsorb more NaCl and water, and by stimulating the adrenal gland to produce the hormone aldosterone. The aldosterone also helps in increase in the absorption of sodium ions. This is how the blood pressure increases. So as soon as the blood pressure increases, the feedback circuit becomes complete. We just started with homeostatic feedback mechanism. So there is a feedback that the blood volume is now better because the blood pressure has increased, and therefore the concentration of the urine can be maintained. This is how the urine formation is regulated by the two ways, first by ADH and second by the JGA, that is the juxtaglomerular apparatus. So this is all about the regulation of urine formation. If you have any doubts, you may ask me in the comment section, and you can also refer to the questions that are given in the description box. Thank you.